Welcome to today's episode of Skin of Color Savvy, the art and science of treating patients of color, the official podcast of the Skin of Color Society produced by HCP Live. I'm Dr. Leandra Barnes, and I will moderate today's conversation among four of us who are deeply involved in a groundbreaking collaboration between the Skin of Color Society and the National Medical Association Dermatology Section, offering training and mentorship to clinical investigators of tomorrow. Let's introduce ourselves first, and then we'll tell you all about this exciting program and why it's so crucial to the field of clinical research. I'm a board certified dermatologist physician scientist at Stanford, and I serve as the co-chair of the Skin of Color Society Clinical Investigators Training Committee, working closely with co-chair Dr. Tarannum Jaleel and the Skin of Color Society side, as well as our other guests from NMA today. Dr. Jaleel, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tarannum Jaleel. I'm a dermatologist at Duke University, and I'm a clinician scientist and heavily involved in clinical trials, starting anywhere from phase 1 to phase 3 trials, and have been working together with this program for several years now, and working with a great team with Leandra Barnes, serving as the co-chair for the program.
Thank you, Dr. Jaleel. Joining us today are also our esteemed colleagues who are also Skin of Color Society members and NMA Derm Section leaders who oversee this initiative on that side. Let's begin with Dr. Hope Mitchell.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Hope Mitchell, a board certified dermatologist and founder of my private practice, Mitchell Dermatology. I serve as the chair of the National Medical Association Dermatology Section. I'm also co-founder and active member of the Skin of Color Society NMA Derm Clinical Investigator Training Program and Committee.
And Dr. Frey, please tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Cheri Frey. I am an assistant professor at Howard University, where I also serve as the residency program director, and I am medical director of the sponsored clinical trials program there. And I was the past chair of the NMA Derm section, and along with Dr. Valerie Harvey, who was president of the Skin of Color Society at the time, we really spearheaded this initiative and brought it to life.
Thank you so much. Let's delve into talk about this initiative and why it is so vital in our specialty. Dr. Mitchell, we'd love to hear your perspective as one of the co-founders of this important initiative. Please tell us about what was the impetus for this program and how did it come to fruition as a collaboration between SOCS and the NMA Derm Section?
Absolutely, Dr. Barnes, I would love to. It was like I remember yesterday when Dr. Fry, who was the chair at the time about 3 years ago, as she just said, she met with Dr. Harvey, who was the president of SOCS at the time, and the collaboration presented itself. The partnership aimed to increase the number of principal investigators who are participating in trials, clinical trials that served the population, the skin of color population that was underrepresented in those trials. And it was a time where we felt as though there was a great need. And she came back to the executive board and presented the idea. And we were very excited to develop the program, and the rest was history.
Wow, that is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Fry, what are your thoughts about the need for and the value of clinical investigator training and mentorship for early career dermatologists who are interested in clinical research?
It was extremely important. So I love what Dr. Mitchell said before. I think as groups, both SOCS and NMA, that were interested in the same goal and were working on those initiatives individually, we really just saw an area for collaboration where the mentorship portion SOCS was very, very heavily involved in, while NMA was also developing more of a curriculum to help from a structured learning standpoint. And like I said, these things were occurring in tandem. And so when Dr. Harvey sort of got wind of what we were doing, even things as simple as getting GCP certificates for our members, it really just, like Dr. Mitchell said, an opportunity presented itself and we had to jump on it. And we thought some of the value would be really, we spend a lot of time, and this is what we're supposed to do in residency. And as a PD, we have a lot of things to teach our residents, right? We have to teach them medical, surgical, derm, cosmetic derm, peds derm. But for those that may be interested specifically in research and clinical research, there's not much of an avenue there. There's only so much time. And so, as an early career dermatologist, maybe you have colleagues or you've heard of clinical trials, but you don't really have any structured learning. And so, without that structured training, you can really struggle to design rigorous trials if you want to do investigator initiated trials, obtain funding, meet regulatory standards, understand the ethics, reporting requirements as well. And so this is really one of the reasons why we wanted to bring this program. Yes, we wanted good representation in principal investigators as well as populations for our subjects, but we also wanted to provide a program that was going to bring insight to our members from SOCS and NMA, really just to give them a leg up and a head start in their careers.
Yes, that is so important. And I love how both you and Dr. Mitchell emphasize that connection of collaboration, like these groups working so closely together to truly elevate the impact. It's not just additive, it ends up becoming multiplicative when everyone's working together. And so both that structured curriculum and the community, the broader community that you guys were able to create is incredible. Dr. Jaleel, could you please walk us through how the program is set up in various phases over an 18-month period and share your thoughts about what the mentees get out of participation in this program?
Yeah, just to add to the story, I think, we did have a very robust undertaking several years ago under, Dr. Harvey's leadership, where um, there was kind of defining the issue of, clinical trial participation by our um, uh, different various subgroups of patients, and how do we make clinical trials relevant to the real world populations that we treat. And all of that led to us really thinking through where are all the gaps. And one of the gaps we realized was, um, clinical trials tend to be restricted to certain um, clinical trial centers that have been doing the trials for a long time. And that's because of experience, and they've built up a reputation. And how do you start giving young investigators um, that opportunity, whether they're serving populations in our community practices or at academic settings? And as you know, we don't always get this education in medical school. We don't always get this education even during our residency program. And uh, I think as a young investigator, I remember needing a mentor who guided me through the process. And I was lucky to find one at my institution, but that's not always the case for our young investigators. So initially, when I was starting out, I can just say, I went through a rigorous master's in clinical research program to understand some of those basics. And that was a luxury that I had, but that's not an opportunity that's always given to young faculty at every institution, given all our other demands that we're having to take care of. So, all that to say, I have always felt like this was a gap in our education. And I really have always felt this was a need, and I've always been open to offering the opportunity for young residents and medical students in our program here to participate as sub-Is on our clinical trials. And those opportunities come from mentorship. And that became very clear as we realized our population representation in our clinical trials doesn't match what we see in the real world that we're dealing with our patient populations. And it became very apparent we needed to train more young investigators to feel like they can take on clinical trials, to make them more visible to our industry partners so they recognize them as potential clinical sites. And so all of that kind of led to this program development where we felt like the basics of clinical trials are not always taught. And so initially we had designed the program where we first set it up to where there was a didactic portion where they got 6 months or so of weekend, several hour sessions on specialized principles of clinical research, drug development, like getting them familiar with the language, FDA regulations, what is good clinical practice. Um, and we had that portion, and then we had an in-person meeting where where we initially set up, some of that didactic to happen in person. And we had our mentees set up with mentors, and that became the initial point where they met with each other to start that longitudinal mentorship component, which after they had the didactic portion and the in-person training portion, they would carry out for an additional 6 months, meeting with their mentors as frequently as quarterly or monthly. The mentors were expected to guide the mentees, be available to the mentees through the process of getting clinical trials, through the process of negotiating budget. And as we evolved from year one, we decided that the time frame that was required needed to be longer. So we made it an 18-month program, and the 18-month program, I thought, that we're starting to do, I feel is much more robust, where the mentees get a long time with the mentors. We also have established this phase of 1.5 year, basically, mentorship in this phase 3 after the 8-part didactic series and the in-person session. And during this phase, we have also incorporated quarterly meetings where all the mentees, all the mentors get together, and it's more of a panel discussion with a short presentation, and where mentees get to ask questions and also take advantage of different mentors that are part of this program, with the idea that we're creating networking and a great learning environment. So, they all can come together. So I feel that this program has significantly evolved from, 2 years ago, based on all the input and feedback we got from all the mentees who have been through the program. And I'm really excited to see some of these mentees now want to be part of the committee of clinical investigator training that we're doing, and have given some additional feedback on how to make the program better. So I think the evolution of the program has been substantial. I have to say, this is a hugely beneficial program, and I cannot speak enough about the in-person training session where we do see our industry partners also come in and talk about what it means to be a successful investigator, how they select their sites, and how to give our trainees information to be successful from their perspective. So I think this is a program that's really evolved with multiple stakeholders, with mentees, mentors, as well as us as the co-chairs coming together to really make this program better. I feel like that's my super arching kind of overview. Definitely feel free to add, Cheri, and Dr. Mitchell, anything you feel like I've left out, because I feel like I've tried to present it as comprehensively as I could.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jaleel. It really sounds like from all of what you've been able to share and what I've also been able to experience at our conference earlier this year, we cover just a broad variety of topics and create that community that's necessary for success in clinical trials, whether that's coming from an academic center, private practice, whether you're in an urban environment, rural. We really are trying to make sure that this is an accessible skill to all of our trainees who want it, so that we can expand access to clinical trials for our patients, because that's what's really driving it home. Dr. Frey and Dr. Mitchell, was there anything else you wanted to chime in about how the things that we cover are not necessarily taught elsewhere?
I think some of the most valuable information comes from, I've learned things, right? It just comes from experiences. So when we have our in-person session, for instance, mentors will often bring cases. They'll bring real life examples of challenges they've had and how they've overcome them. And even as leaders of this and mentors, they love coming together because there's just some organic discussion that takes place. We know that there are always unforeseen challenges when we are involved in clinical trials. Having our industry stakeholders there is also really important so that we can hear things from so many different perspectives. But part of my, the thing I look forward to the most is really number one, seeing that I'm not alone in some of
Mhm.
these challenges that I face, but also being able to just have this diversity of thought with everyone being in the same space and really with the same goal, as we said, is just to really increase access to clinical trials. But I think Dr. Jaleel did a fantastic job just speaking to the heart of what it is we're doing and the purpose behind it. And we just look forward to expanding and continuing to train more and more investigators.
Well said. I don't have anything to add. I will say that Meet Your Mentor Day, the in-person experience is one of my favorite components of the program for many of the reasons that have already been mentioned, but I really love the real life case scenarios, right? Where you can really understand how to navigate certain situations. That is very impactful about the program.
Yes, thank you so much to both you and Dr. Fry for already sharing what you have experienced firsthand through this program. And, just that affirmation that this is lifelong learning. We're learning from each other continually. And I was wondering if you, Dr. Jaleel, had anything else that you experienced firsthand, whether that's from the online course or the in-person training or Meet Your Mentor Day or just the longitudinal mentorship that you've seen as this program has evolved.
Um, I think that there's always unforeseen challenges in research and doing research and conduct of research. And I think what I have firsthand experienced is the community we're growing. So
Mhm.
I do feel like we've had mentors who've come back to be part of the program, which speaks very highly of the program to me, that we've kept them interested and wanting to contribute, and because it is a significant time commitment on their end. I think that the mentees have come back to be on the committee to kind of, continue to be involved after they've completed the program to kind of, they see the need for this, they've made this a priority, and they want to be part of the team that works to contribute to this moving forward. So to me, that speaks very highly of the program. And also it tells me more about the community we've built. We've gotten to know people over time who are really motivated and really are looking to make a difference in the healthcare of benefit of their patients from the trials that they're doing. So I think
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it tells me we've met people who are invested, and we've met people who want to lead in the future and take this, you know, and grow this. And so I think what that tells me is, we're not done here, and, we've kind of put off a few things, and I see similar programs kind of coming up in other societies. So it just tells me that, we are really doing a great job as a group, and also as building in terms of building a community and identifying the need. And the networking is huge. I think for me, what's been really interesting is to also see the perspective of our industry partners in terms of, the rigor it takes for a clinical trial to be successful, the factors that they are considering when they take on a new investigator, how, they are looking at what would set them up for success. And I think that they do think very highly of our program. I do feel like we are setting up our trainees for success. And I think that it just tells me there's, a growing need for more programs like this so they can be more widespread
Yeah.
and train people in, you know, different places. And I know we're a small group here, but I really think that we are making a very important, we're meeting a very important milestone that hasn't been really set out before, and that we're.
Here, here. Yes, well said. And I know in just our final moments, I wanted to take a moment to ask each of you to either Share where you think you see the program evolving and expanding in the next few years, or share any pearls of advice that you have for anyone interested in clinical investigation.
I definitely would say, we all know the power of mentorship. And to be successful in this field, I think that getting a good mentor as early on in your career is important. I mean, we know this from our medical school days, etc. I really hope that the program continues to gain the momentum, that it has, and that it continues to produce a pipeline of
Mhm.
clinical investigators who are confident, right? Who are empowered, who are supported with a great network of researchers that will help them to be experienced researchers that can accomplish so many things.
Thank you. Dr. Fry?
Yes, very well said. I would say two things. One, looking forward to more collaborations with different industry sponsors because Dr. Jaleel highlighted one of the main challenges is that industry tends to go to the same sites, right? Because they know that they're reliable for good reason. Clinical trials, we need to meet regulatory and ethical standards. They're costly. We need to be able to enroll. So the more that we involve different industry sponsors, the more experience they'll have with our investigators and more confidence they'll have with them. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is just continuing to expand beyond industry, right? And teaching these investigators even about investigator initiated research, a little bit delving more into that. We touched on that a little bit this year more than we had in the past. But, even with NIH grants or career development grants, I see it in the future as expanding to those areas as well, just because it's just a natural progression when we're talking about research. And there are specific, even federal grants for clinical trials. So that's what I see.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. And Dr. Jaleel?
I feel like Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Frey, like you guys have said it beautifully. I don't know how much more I can add because it really touched upon the heart of what we're trying to do. I
Mhm.
really think my final kind of parting words would be we really are trying to equip our investigators with tools to initiate as well as
Mhm.
conduct quality research because we need to do quality research. We need to expand trial access to underserved communities. We need to think about our recruitment strategies, and we need people invested in that. And ultimately, the hope is to develop therapies that work reliably for all our patients, regardless of different backgrounds. So I really think that, strengthening this pipeline for our
Mhm.
investigators by, through programs like this that we've tried to do, I think is definitely the first step. And then I agree wholeheartedly that we need to get more stakeholders, including industry trialists and other, industry partners involved so that we can really take it to the next step of real life, real world training, where we are able to match our trainees, which we've done a really good job through our mentors with trials in their area of interest in the communities that they're hoping and willing to serve.
Thank you. Thank you, all three of you, for those comments. It just sounds like with this growing network and strategic curriculum that we've been able to expand, we're building not just a mentorship program, but a movement that hopefully can be scaled across all of dermatology and become a model for other specialties as well. So thank you all today for today's discussion and sharing your insights. To our listeners, we hope that you found today's episode enlightening. And if you're interested in learning more about the work of the Skin of Color Society, please visit skinofcolorsociety.org. We'll be back soon with another episode, so please be sure to subscribe to the Skin of Color Savvy on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, take care and thank you for listening.